Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the Daily AI Show. Today, ChatGPT-4o updates, a stealth update from OpenAI, and we will discuss: is it all good? What is everyone talking about? The main features. What did Sam say? And what problems might be occurring because of this update? Today, I am joined by Beth, and I'm Jumi, and this is going to be a two-person show. And so, good morning, everybody. Thanks for everybody to joining us in the live stream. Justin, Cisco, Jen, Jude. Oh, wow. All the classic. Oh, wait, and Greg just joined. Awesome. Perfect. Okay, everybody. Um, so broad strokes, over the last week, OpenAI, Sam just did a little stealth release of an update to 4.0, right? We've already heard that there was um, a knowledge cutoff update uh, for June of 2024. That happened earlier in the week. We heard that they updated their model spec document, which is some 60-page document that explains how it's supposed to work and gives you some guidance if it runs into problems. And then finally, Sam let us all know via X and had a little conversation with the Perplexity folks about what people can expect from the stealth release. And so, what have we seen so far, Beth? What is everybody talking about the in this update?
So, uh, part of part of the reason for this conversation, part of why, not that OpenAI isn't news every day, but it was a surprise update, right? And it was announced by Sam, tweeting, "Hey, y'all, we just launched an update." So there we go. We put out an update to ChatGPT 4o. It is pretty good. It is soon going to get much better. The team is cooking. So, yes, we are all really excited whenever there's any update, but that kind of like stealth drop, like, hey, we changed something, um, is uh is disconcerting sometimes. Particularly because 4.0 is the base model that custom GPTs are built on. And there was a post after that was that same day, because I believe that was Saturday, by Ethan Mollick talking about, "Oh, hey, the update just dropped, and I went and checked my custom GPTs, and some of them were broken." So that I think is part of the bigger story of this is when people build things on top of what we've started to feel is like a utility technology, right? Like there are actual work systems that are built upon a custom GPT to be able to do things. And when you just like, hey, y'all, I mean, it's a little like, hey, y'all, we moved the furniture in the living room and you have to walk in blindfolded. Sorry. Like,
Right.
thanks.
Right. I'm assuming this is part of Sam made a statement earlier that maybe a few weeks ago or the end of last year. Their intent was to start doing more iterative releases, right? As opposed to just big announcements like the 12 days of OpenAI and things like
Right.
right. And so I'm assuming this is their initial attempt at that sort of thing. Um, so I can see where you're coming from, where people are coming from, where it's, "Oh, and now everything's broken." Maybe a 48-hour warning or something that's like, "Oh, yeah, this is coming out this weekend," or something like that would a little more a heads up.
Right.
Like, I mean, you and I have experienced some issues with other companies just, "Oh, we're releasing version 2 of this thing, and we're forcing everyone to manually move all their information over." Right? And say that any yeah. Anytime there isn't proper, heads up, it's uh yeah, it definitely throws a wrench in the works.
It's for me, it's the difference between being, a dev team and being
Mhm.
a customer-facing service. Right? You do need to have some people in your team that you listen to, because maybe there are people, right? Also, iterative release to me doesn't mean, surprise, right? It means we're not changing the name to a 4o medium, like, with artificial sweetener. Like, it's not that we're not renaming it whatever we renamed the things, we're just increasing its capacity in some ways. Now, one of the ways it seems to have increased the capacity, in addition to the cutoff date, which was moved, to what did you say, June 2024, I think?
Or
Um,
yeah.
and isn't it a little wild that we're still June 2024 seems like several years ago at this point in time. Oh, um, the, what I think is interesting is that people are responding to it as though it's a better thought partner because it has more of a personality. So, um it doesn't rely on, "Oh, hey, tell me what you think," right? As a call and response, automatic response, it has a little bit more of, "Oh, hey, sorry about that, I got you," right? Like, those kinds of things that could be helpful, that could also not be helpful, and, if you're really giving something to us that has more personality, it would be helpful to be able to turn to set that personality. Temperature settings, I think is not the right phrase because temperature, we talk about temperature as more creative, but basically it's how far you're going away from probability. Right? So if the temperature is at 0, the most probable word, or token is what it's gonna go to. If it's set higher than that, it doesn't, adhere quite as closely to that probability. What do you think?
Right, and that's a good distinction to make too, because what we're looking from this stealth release, or people's comments on it is it's in two. I saw it in two major factors, right? Either one, it was this seems more creative, or this seems more conversational, that kind of thing. And on the other side, it's it broke all my stuff, right? So I think
Yes.
there's definitely two, yeah, there's definitely
Here we
two
go.
clear camps that most people tend to be in.
They seem like they're even, right? On this side, we have slightly more, creative personality. On this side, it doesn't work. I don't think those are like, I think the weighting of those
Right.
2.
Well, and it could just be that kind of setting, right? Whatever they put in, they updated system instructions, or they updated the core model, that's and then I was hoping to glean some more information of this stealth update from the model spec, but it's 60 pages and I haven't gone through it all yet. But it does seem like if you turn the dial towards, yes, I'm more helpful, but, not, helpful but without bias, is gonna get more of a creative or casual, interaction, or more comfortable, interaction, that's what I should say,
Right.
um, versus it breaks my custom GPTs. Now, I find it interesting about the breaking of the custom GPTs, because what is the framework, language, or triggers that people are using their custom GPTs that is gonna cause this creative, update, uh, lack of a better term, to break those kinds of things, right? Because custom GPTs is, most of the ones that, either I have built or I've seen, built out, it's very clear on the whole trigger response framework, right? You've got you use you're explaining the context, who the GPT is, how it's supposed to act, and then give it set of instructions. What do you think is that creative update that could cause that to break down more? Or is it or is it a certain methodology that some people are applying to their custom GPTs that's breaking that down? That's something I'd like to investigate a little bit, because if there's a certain method or process that is greatly affected by that interaction update or that creative update that that's going to break the custom GPTs, I want to identify it and remove it. So these are the kind of details that I would like to see with, any release or update. How the I understand that they're not gonna give the secret sauce recipe for sure, but they should be able to tell us, "Oh, because we made X changes, you're gonna see different behavior that, based on relying on X, Y, or Z," right? If you're saying, you know, "Give me X in a certain way," and that update is gonna change how that interacts, that is something I'd like to know about.
So the first person I saw mention this was Ethan Mollick, and um, and he said, 4o is now definitely different. Beyond that, it's hard to say. It seems smarter and is much more personable. But my innovation GPT, which is one of the public GPTs from him, so you can go try it, um, now no longer works with GPT-4o. And he offered some screenshots, and it seems like the breakage happened when you're asking the custom GPT to follow a multi-step process. So the
Mm.
screenshot he posted said, "Great, ChatGPT, great. We'll focus on how might we make AI deployment more effective and impactful within our organization." Because uh, Ethan Mollick likes his meta searches and not meta because that name now means something else, but yeah, so the custom GPT-4o says, "Now I'll generate 10 different ideas to address this," right? Followed by 10 based on web searches. And then returns the right, like does the little over and out, because you can see it's not doing anything. You've now got your chat window active to you again. And he responds, "You aren't doing anything." Right? So it's acknowledging, like, it can obviously read the instructions because it's
Mhm.
referring to the instructions in saying what it's going to do, but then it didn't do it. Um, so then it generated those 10 ideas, and then again, it's reading the instructions. It says, "Now I'll do a web search and generate another 10." And again, the chat window switches and Ethan Mollick is typing back, "You're still not doing anything." Right? So it's that kind of thing, and that makes sense to me. I do think it's the more complicated, multi-step custom GPTs that have the harder time when things switch. My, GPTs that I use for the show, which are single step and I call a different one each time. Like, so if y'all don't know this, when you're typing to ChatGPT and you have multiple GPTs, you can basically at and the name of another GPT and bring it into the conversation. I find that more helpful, than, trying to create a multi-step process that one GPT is gonna find, and follow, and one of the reasons that I find it more helpful is because when something breaks, I know where it is in the chain. Now, I am the
Yeah,
human
that
chaining them, but
yeah, no, that's a good point, 'cause, it's basically offloading, uh, I guess, memory, or running into those. You don't wanna run into those kinds of memory issues and having to load everything in there. Um So I wonder, yeah, I wonder. So take Ethan Mollick's custom GPT, break it up, Beth, and make it like 6 different ones, and then see if that works. That could be the solution. Now, another thing I wanted to highlight was, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, and I'm just really curious because we know that Brian actually is really skilled at building these multi-step custom GPTs as well. And I'm just curious about that. For me, it's a level of reliability and productivity, right? So this in terms of programming or in terms of automation, again, what is it a would you choose to take a prompt that had a result and then pass it to another prompt that has another result, or even just feed it out so you have the output of that as well as passing it? I do. Like, I like to know what it's doing, and, GPTs are not ChatGPT and LLMs are not self-aware, so when they tell you what they're doing, they're not actually telling you what they're doing. They're giving you the most probable response for that,
Yeah.
and the and I do. I am an old beta tester, automation person. I wanna see where it's going in the machine so that I can see where the machine stopped.
Definitely, yeah. I'm a big proponent of more information, and we talked about, documentation being an issue too. But, I wanted to go back and, highlight one of the what I consider the bigger conversation, particularly between Sam, and, the, Perplexity, uh, CEO.
Yep,
And so
Srinivas.
they kinda went back and forth is because Sam is making the claim that with this update, 4.0 is the best web search, right? LLM or product. And of course, that flies directly into the face of, Perplexity's offering. Um and then, of course, they come back with, Perplexity added deep research, and, it seems like they have a much more, comfortable or casual, interaction than some of the butting heads of, other, CEOs. But, I wanted to highlight that particular fact is he's making the claim that it's a better search. Now uh, ever since '03 Mini came out, I kind of exclusively use all of those credits, so to speak, and just uh, yeah, yeah, well, you don't need reasoning for that, but I want reasoning. Fill in the gaps that my brain hasn't filled in.
What are
So I just jump to '03 all the time. Though, if we're talking about, the overall web search experience compared to, say, Google, which was the de facto for so many years, is it better? From my experience, ye yes, in the way that I think if I'm looking at it like how the average person is using a search, right? The Google has trained us collectively to on how to search, how to use keywords, how to form the query. What are we kind of looking for? Isn't necessarily always complete sentences. Sometimes we're looking for bits and pieces to put together to give us the best kind of query and things like that. So I think for the average person's average web search, it's a pretty good experience. It's giving you the top, 3 to 5, entries that it can pull in. It's providing a little bit of context analysis in how the way it, presents information and lists all the sources for you. So, like I was looking I did a simple product search, and it even gave me a YouTube video. Now, how much is this different than their initial search GPT offerings? To me, it wasn't that different. So I don't know what the metric is of the better search. What makes it better? Have you seen is there something in your average searches that just stands out for you?
Well, so last night I was doing some research, And I started with Perplexity because that's where I start. And Perplexity was giving me I was doing some government research, so I wanted to find the original act. I wanted to find the original language and information about government, grants and that kinda stuff. I was doing it for Canada, so if you're in the US, no, I don't think that research is gonna be accurate right now, but not because the search is wrong, but because government is changing how that stuff works for us as we speak. But, Perplexity was giving me sources that, that weren't the original sources. So Perplexity was giving me articles about something, and then it had the link to something, but based on the, date of the article, that link might be for last year and not this year. ChatGPT new search, not only gave me the actual, information and current information for the actual right, like, I need the links for these programs. I gave the same, requirement to both, but it gave it to me in the chat as opposed to the little citation thing, and then I needed to go and copy that. Like, it literally gave me a URL, which I very much
Mhm.
appreciated for that. I don't know if that's true for all of the things now because those little citation the previous little citation markers or buttons or capsules, that the information in was another step you had to go in order to get it. Um, so now it kind of feels like ChatGPT is functioning like AI Google more than
Mhm.
Perplexity or AI Google.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I can align with that because I I think for most of my searches, if it's research searches. So I'm trying to look for more in-depth information, have it, arranged in the method that I like or, collated or whatnot. But so that's why Perplexity's always been a great research tool. Because I'm not usually searching for, oh, what's the best Ethernet cable that's out there now or whatever. That's a product search. That's an item search or something like that. That I'll either um I'll do a regular search, a Google search, Amazon, if I'm planning to buy it like right now or whatnot. Um, but Perplexity is the go-to for research because we use it, every day for the show. Now, I comparing the two, I'm still lean towards the Perplexity side. So I think this update might be a good getting closer and maybe will exceed that, exceed my Perplexity use, but with Perplexity adding deep research, as an option, um, now that's gonna throw another wrench in it, and it's between these 2 products, really. I'm not going to Google AI for searches. I rarely now go to Google, at all for, uh, searching for things or researching things, because the Perplexity and ChatGPT are way better for that, especially if I wanna take it to the next step where it becomes more development, right? Where I
Mhm.
wanna develop the idea or the concept or dig deeper. Um, Now, it would be nice if, Chat would then respond to Perplexity's adding deep research by giving the plus and free users a few deep researches a day. That would be nice. Yeah, drive all down the cost to 0 and make it
Right.
available for everyone. Guys, that's what we wanna see. Um,
Well, and that was something that Perplexity, touted, right? I mean, one of the things that I think Perplexity is, best at in the frontier players is Perplexity, is willing to absolutely turn around and do something quickly, right? O3 is available now, boom, now you can use O3 as a reasoning model in Perplexity. Right? Like, they are very willing to to do instant changes within the sort of outside, I think, of the model that they're not the LLM model, but the business model, like the service model.
Mm.
But I think when search is a thing, that's ingrained into the service model. Like, they have a structure for that. That's what Perplexity was, right?
Right.
And I think
Now,
OpenAI adds this on top. I think search is a tool that the LLM can use as opposed to an inherent function built into the LLM.
right. I would compare it, if this was just a few years ago, I would compare it to how, uh, the main product of Google was search, and they added on, other features like mail and workspace and things like that, whereas Microsoft Office was this is the product office productivity suite, right? Um, and we talked about this before. This is totally in line with OpenAI's attempt to put in more features so that you just stay in the ChatGPT interface, and
Right.
things like that. I think this is going to be a comparison of when I want to learn something. Perplexity is going to be the specialist in that process, and then when I want to just do a little bit of everything, one-stop shop, that seems to be the ChatGPT or OpenAI, um, approach to things. Now, one thing I will say, before going on is, both of their searches still don't know what time is. Um,
Not consistently.
I yeah, so, I'll just say, "Hey, give me the latest AI news from the last 2 weeks or the last week," and I will get articles from months ago,
Yeah.
you know, or even years ago, and I don't know now when I go into more in depth, if I say, uh, if I prime, OpenAI, if I prime ChatGPT and I'll say, "What is today's date?" "Oh, okay, it's
Right.
this date." "Alright, cool. What are the dates from the last 14 days?" "These are the last days from 14 days." "Alright, find me articles
Yep.
that are within this date range about this subject." Then it does okay, unless there isn't enough. That's kind of one of the things that I ran into for researching this latest thing that happened is there's only a handful of go-to articles that really talked about it on the web. There was some, there's obviously the X conversations and things like that, but very little media sources that were actually doing a write-up about it in and of itself. So I would get the same sources from both services. Um, and then I would get the something that's related. "Oh, we didn't have enough to fill in 4 articles. So the 4th article is gonna be this one back from, August or something like that, that is roughly related." And so it's those kinds of things that I think I would like to see some updates for is when I say relevant or I say within a couple of weeks or I give these basic parameters, I want it to only be this, right? Without
Right.
having to give that kind of instruction. And I know custom instructions, and this could be a preference thing. I don't know. But, custom instructions, and that's one of the things that people are talking about, breaking as well. It's just all of these different sets of instructions that are being drawn together to, provide what the basis of the LLM is supposed to predict and things like that. But I think it goes back to the whole, "Hey, this feature already exists. Just add it as part of the software." The LLM doesn't have to do it.
Right.
It can just edit, copy, paste, that kind of
Right.
thing. That feature exists. There are things that browsers automatically read or can perform, or your operating system can perform. So just access those when you need to access them, or if that would be quicker. I mean, the overall, like, oh, we're going to pick the right model for the right job. Well, pick the right feature for the right job, then pick the right model. But I don't want to go too much on a tirade on that. Um,
So I I
I
think
go ahead.
I think one of the things that um that we keep brushing up against in the different ways that we approach this comes back to that idea that that the model itself talks to you as though it's self-aware, but it isn't, right? And so we talk about that in terms of probability, but it also isn't self-aware in, would it be better for me to or access the search and replace function that should be in Canvas? I don't believe it is in Canvas, but that's fine. Would it be better to access the search and replace function? Would it be better to suggest, I could do this, but just heads up, that's gonna that's gonna take me 8 windows because I have an output token limit of 8,000. So even though I can access the whole thing, we're going to have multiple iterations of my responding because I can't get the whole transcript out in one response. Or can, hey, I could do this, but let me suggest a couple ways let me suggest the description of what's going to happen if I do it, and let me suggest that if you possess Notepad or any of the Notepad flavors, you could do the search and replace there, right? Like, now you're starting to really, um, understand me or human as, like, a partner, as
Mm.
which and it's been talking as if it understands that for the whole time. So, the more capability it gets, the more I feel like people need to come back to, "Oh, okay," right? Because one of the things that was talked about this is that now it's remembering, um, it can remember previous conversations if you ask it to.
Right, they did memory updates, yeah. You know,
So right? Like, if you're gonna say, "And how is, your brother's, I don't know, hernia?" Right? Like, "Hey, I know we looked up that stuff last week. Did your brother go to the hospital?" Or, like, whatever those things are, that's just gonna make us forget even further. And it's definitely gonna make the people who are just getting into this have a really steep learning curve, not in terms of how to use it, but in grokking what it is that you are using.
right. I mean, it seems to me there's the clear build path is the easier interaction. The less the user has to input because it either remembers past conversations or, there's the reasoning aspect that's added at every single layer. I guess it's moving towards, make me a picture of a cat or write me a short story about X, those kinds of simple requests where it's filling in all the context that you normally put in, the triggers that you would normally put in, those instructions you would normally put in, and things like that to make it a easier experience to onboard somebody. So it's getting to that point of understanding intent as opposed to being instructed for what the ultimate goal is. Um, I'm not sure exactly how if that's gonna be good, overall in the end, but that could be the clear delineation between someone who uses an AI or an LLM or, other AI type tool, uh, for their day-to-day lives versus I'm doing this for a particular job, or I'm trying to do an in-depth, look at something, or I'm trying to build an application to perform X, Y, or Z, or an automation and things like that. So that might be a clear separation there. Now, I I'd like to pose a question to chat and our viewers, and we can follow up maybe tomorrow or later in the week on it. But uh, the big question comes down to, if this method that they are doing updates is to continue, what is the number one, or what is the couple of your top priorities in either one, do you agree with the way they did it? Two, what is the what changes would you say that need to be made to make this more useful, acceptable as a iterative uh, release schedule or process? Because that's always my big takeaway. I always like more information. Tell me more stuff. Let me know in advance. Um, Not hype, actual information and instruction. So, yeah, those are my questions for everybody out there. Because for me, the stealth release, that sounds like a gimmick to me. It's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, release something use it over the weekend. Tell us what you think on, next week." It's like, "All right, guys, give me a little more than that, just in case if I am running a bunch of custom GPTs, things that I'm relying on." So, that's my question to everybody.
So it's interesting because when this sort of thing happens and a bunch of things break and Brian has joined the chat and let us know that his GPTs, custom GPTs are now out of their minds. Which so sorry. And I do wonder if that's like the more complicated structure multi-step you get, because Brian is amazing at that. Um
Mhm.
if that puts you more at risk. The other thing that we're seeing is that people are saying, like the API wasn't updated, right? And that's a reason to build with the API. But the point of custom GPTs and the point of the chat interface is that your audience doesn't need those things, right? Like you're misunderstanding your audience. You're misunderstanding your customer, your target audience um, because uh, because they don't give a heads up for the custom GPT builder. And the reason that the APIs don't change automatically is because they do let the devs know, like, this has changed. You have 30 days or 60 days until this version of the API is no longer going to work, and we're automatically going to move people
Right.
over, right? Like, I think it's just like a misunderstanding or like
You know
like it's a misunderstanding or actually not on their radar. That is not what they're trying to do. They're not trying to be the best, uh, you know, service provider.
well, it's interesting because this is a great example of, like you were saying earlier, about it the dev mentality or the dev thinking versus the client-facing mentality. Um, they didn't make those changes to the API. Whenever they make a change to an API, when they're going to, sunset a model, it is going to they're gonna give that heads up or that warning. So, is this OpenAI quietly telling everyone that, you should rebuild your custom GPTs via API and using a different, deployment method, for those automations or for those tools? And anything, that's client-facing ChatGPT interface, type of thing is really for, single user or base users, as opposed to something that's more, infrastructure, because it's obviously less reliable if they're really releasing, these updates, these stealth updates. So that's a interesting take. Yeah.
Well, because
Yeah,
we've
no,
been
I think it's a signal. I think it is a signal in that case. Yeah, or in that way.
and there's been a lot of speculation about why they haven't really released a better like a true update to custom GPTs. Right? They do not in general say, "Hey, so we've been thinking a lot about custom GPTs, and we think you're really gonna like what we're adding to it." But again, that's not the point of their organization. They're racing toward AGI, and we are
Mhm.
a revenue stream on the side, it feels like sometimes, right? I mean, we're a good revenue stream, being able to get access to O3, and O3 Mini. There was another part of the conversation where, with Sam, and it was Mackay. Um, I really do need to figure out how to pronounce their name. Um, they were saying now if we could just get it um, with O1, and Sam responded, "How about O3?" So again, in that context, it seems like we're doing some iterative stuff on the way to our real release, right? So probably not updating O1 or O1 Pro beyond what it is now, because the next thing will be um, O3 or GPT 4.5 and then 5. GPT 4.5 was rumored, right? Or not rumored. I think he said it in an AMA.
He said soon. Yeah, he said soon.
Um,
Yeah.
and
So
what does soon mean, Sam? I mean, come on.
well, I mean, we understand that the O3, O1, O3 models are all the reasoning models. That's what they're designed around.
Mhm.
They offer the deep research, which seems to be a functionality that can be added as part of any of the model interface types or the model requests and things like that. We've seen that search or search GPT, the search function is now added to pretty much everything. And you can force that search is going. Um, so yeah, there seems to be a clear path to add all of these functionalities. It would be nice, or it will be nice when there's the unified interface for that, so that you don't have to go around and know which one to choose for whatever you're doing. Mm. So I think that's the eventual goal, of course, and then, the agentic things with operator and all of that. So, like Greg was saying earlier on in chat about, you know, everything being, or you don't need any apps anymore. Everything's AI based. It will build and use and access whatever services/features are needed, at the time.
And they're gonna go by they're going by the wayside, and sorry, I'm laughing, Greg, to make his point, just like WordStar, Lotus, and VisiCalc. So, hi to everybody who knows those names.
That that's some deep B-side, track references there, Greg. I'm glad I'm glad we're all, in the same, tech experience level there. Um, yeah. So, I mean, for me, I think that's kind of what wraps up the whole discussion is, um, again, to reiterate those questions, let us know, what you think. I personally, I want them to change things. I'd rather know more and be, even if it's gonna be a weekend release, just say, "Hey, we're doing this update Friday night. Try it out on the weekend and let us know on Monday what your thoughts are." Sure. Um, Also, I did read an article about having different modes, right? Because part of that model spec document is talking about, um, acceptable or unacceptable information. How can we build out the model to have more in depth and nuanced discussions about spicy subjects? Um, and someone had mentioned it as having, "Oh, can I have adult mode on so I can have a real conversation?" or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, and having those more dials to turn or switches to flip, and I think would be, really useful, to keep people using the model, right? Because we've kind of discussed and seen that, yes, all of these, models and services are all driving down to 0, so everyone, there's no real moat on there. You aren't offering a feature of your model that isn't done somewhat similarly by someone else. So what is keeping people coming back to you? And overall, I always like to keep in the frame of mind is like, oh, what's better for the user? What's better for the client, the customer, who the person using it? If we keep that mindset is like, oh, what's better for their experience? I think that's going to be a healthier overall approach.
So I think that's really interesting because I do think that OpenAI is still so far the first out of the gate advantage was so high for OpenAI that everybody is still playing catch up in a way that um, that doesn't risk them in the same kind of way, with the exception of, they are, self-funded. I mean, they're Microsoft funded, and now they're SoftBank funded, but they're not, Amazon, Apple, Google, right? They don't have deep pockets in that context. Um, Anthropic also isn't funded that way, but it is funded by Amazon, so, like OpenAI outside of Microsoft doesn't have, like, the sugar daddy, kind of, experience. That's probably offensive. Terribly sorry. I'm saying words live on the internet, broadcasting. But they don't have that, like, they don't have it in-house like Google does, and they don't seem to have, like, um an open faucet, so whenever more is needed, that is given in that kind of way. That's not what's happening for them. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating. I think all of this is really fascinating. I have one final point that I would like to make, which is that as development keeps going, the ability for the model to iterate on itself live or even not itself, like the version that wasn't released is going to get faster. And that is the story of Prometheus in Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark, right? So part of this being like, hey, what are you doing? Right? Like we want more information about this. Um, because it feels really fast, like you've said the thing, now it's dropped, now we're engaging with it live. That experience may happen more just organically as we move forward. So,
Mm.
this may be the way of things, this may be yeah, this may be a situation that we confront more and more, as we move to the future. And, Jumi, no way did we finish at, 35 minutes in.
Just let the conversation flow. Yeah. But I think that's a great point to wrap up on. I want to quickly mention Greg. He dropped the question about Grok, and we're actually covering that in tomorrow's show. Apparently, the Grok drop is supposed to happen today, and then we're going to
Tonight.
cover tonight, yes, tonight, and then, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll have a nice, healthy discussion tomorrow, in tomorrow's show about that. So, thank you everybody for joining us. It was great to see Brian and Andy, able to, pop into the chat there, and thanks, everyone for, watching. So, join us tomorrow. We'll talk about Grok, and then we'll have the rest of the week for our news and our recap and additional topics that come down the pipeline there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, hit us up at the Daily Show, dailyaishow.com to sign up for the newsletter. Yeah, I know. I messed that up a little bit. Okay. Again, thank you so much, everybody. It's always a lively time. And thank you again for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Aloha.